All right, welcome. Today we are jumping straight into a seriously mind-bending idea. This is one of those concepts that connects the biggest things we can imagine, the entire cosmos, with the smallest, most personal thing there is, our own mind. We're going to explore a theory that pulls together physics, philosophy, and the very nature of what it means to be you. So this is our starting point, this amazing quote from Bill Gorman. Just think about that for a second. What if your consciousness, your personal sense of self, actually works kind of like its own black hole? You know, a self-contained little universe that feels separate but is still somehow connected to everything and everyone else. That's the thought experiment we're going to unpack.
Okay, so before we can really get the metaphor for the self, we first have to talk about the science it's based on. And I have to stress, this is really speculative stuff on the absolute frontiers of physics.
So out there in the world of cosmology, there's this wild idea. Physicists like Nikodem Poplavsky have put forward the theory that our entire universe, all of it, might actually exist inside a black hole that's floating around in an even bigger parent universe. Now, it's definitely not a mainstream theory, and there's no direct evidence for it, but it comes from some really compelling mathematical similarities between how black holes work and the shape of our own universe.
And here is the key parallel, the thing that makes the whole analogy work. We know there's a boundary to our universe, right? A point beyond which we just can't see. Well, a black hole has something very similar called an event horizon. If you're on the outside, you can never, ever see what's on the inside. So this idea of an inescapable, one-way boundary, that's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so we've got the crazy cosmic concept down. Now, let's see how we can take that massive idea and turn it into something deeply personal. We're going to use the universe inside a black hole as a powerful metaphor for the human mind and what it feels like to be you.
The most important term to remember here is the event horizon. Think of it as the ultimate barrier. It really is the point of no return. Once something crosses it, it's not getting out, and no information about it is getting out either. So just hold on to that idea of an inescapable boundary as we make this next leap.
This, right here, is where the whole analogy just comes alive. So the black hole's event horizon, well, that's kind of like our own self. That barrier of subjective experience that makes your reality, your thoughts, and your feelings completely and uniquely yours. The singularity at the center, that point of infinite density, that becomes a metaphor for a deep, shared, universal awareness that could, theoretically, connect all of us. And the idea that information is somehow preserved on a black hole's horizon? Well, what if our own experiences are encoded in that same way as part of the whole?
So, it's a really cool framework, but it does make you wonder, if this cosmic metaphor holds any water, where would we even see a reflection of it inside our own bodies? How could this possibly be grounded in our biology?
Well, the theory proposes some really interesting symbolic connections. For instance, the pineal gland, which mystical traditions have called the third eye for centuries, could be seen as our personal event horizon, the gateway between our inner world and the outer universe. Our brain's incredibly complex neural network, maybe that's our personal singularity, where all our sensations and thoughts collapse into the unified feeling of me. And the heart, it generates a powerful electromagnetic field. Maybe that's how we interact with other black hole selves, through empathy, like a kind of subtle gravitational pull.
All right, let's zoom out again. What I think is so compelling about this whole thing is that, as modern and scientific as it sounds, it actually plugs right into some of the most ancient philosophical and spiritual ideas about the nature of reality. You know, humanity has been on this quest for a long time. This idea totally echoes the old Hermetic principle of as above, so below, the small reflecting the large. It sounds a lot like Indra's net from Buddhism, this idea of a vast net where every single jewel reflects every other jewel. And the thought that our personal sense of self is a kind of barrier creating an illusion of separation, that's at the heart of spiritual concepts like Maya or the ego. This is really just a new cosmic language for a very, very old idea.
Okay, as fascinating and cool as all this is to think about, we absolutely have to hit the brakes and ground this whole thing with a big reality check. It's super important to separate this amazing metaphor from what is actually established scientific fact. So let's be crystal clear. The whole universe in a black hole idea, it's unproven science. And the jump from that cosmological theory to human consciousness, that's not a step. That's a massive leap into the world of metaphysics, not physics. There is zero empirical evidence linking our pineal glands or our hearts to any of this. The whole thing remains a beautiful but highly speculative, philosophical idea. But you know what?
That doesn't make it worthless. Not at all. Its power isn't in being a provable scientific fact. The real value here is that it's a rich, imaginative synthesis. It's a thought experiment that lets us look at ourselves, our own minds, and our place in the universe in a completely fresh and exciting way.
And so that really just leaves us with one final big question to chew on. If you start thinking of yourself not just as a person, but as this tiny personal universe with its own event horizon, is that boundary, the thing that makes you you, a wall that separates you from everything else? Or is it possible that it's actually the very doorway that connects you to it all?